Hello, class. Today we're going to talk about the rise of nation states. And as you see in front of you, you have a map of Europe. At least I hope you can identify it as Europe. And you'll notice that it looks a lot different than probably the map that's on the wall right now in the room. You'll notice that there's a lot less countries on this map than a modern European map. And that's because Europe looked a lot different 500 years ago. So we're going to discuss on how this came about. First of all, the development of countries, because last year when you studied Rome and other places like that, you noticed that a lot of these countries didn't exist and now they do. So we want to get a handle on how it came about to be. So we're going to be focusing on national monarchies, nationalism, and the nation state. Nationalism will be one of the biggest topics we talk about this year in Global 10. Okay, so I want you to take notes on this video using the Cornell method that I showed you how to use, and we'll have some questions at the end. So, in the past, prior to roughly 1550, 1600, power is held by the Roman Catholic Church, Italian city-states in the south, and the feudal lord and manor in the north, as you remember from your Middle Ages. Okay, after the fall of Rome, Europe breaks up into small isolated groups with local rulers. Language barriers increase, local different customs develop, loyalty to the feudal nobles develop, the local landowner. Different regions become isolated from each other, and the Catholic Church keeps the king's power weak. So the Catholic Church is really the glue instead of a central government. So all begins to change as time goes by. During the late Middle Ages and the Renaissance, kings, nobles, and the church struggle against each other for power. Feudalism begins to decline. The kings slowly begin to increase their power, and this shift begins in England and in France. Nationalism, which you need to know this topic, you need to know this is a very important point. Nationalism is pride and devotion to one's country. Okay, you also have a growing middle class that grows out of a lot of different factors stemming from the Crusades and the Black Death that led to the rise of cities and the merchant class and trade. And this influences the move towards centralization with a monarch because a king offers some things that a local landowner really can't offer. First of all, stability and protection and security across a much wider scale. Economic reform, you have a common currency across all of the king's domains, and usually favorable trade practices because that helps the king collect taxes and get a piece of the action. Nobles oppose this move towards centralization because it weakens the power. Think about it. If you own a small, if you're a large landowner, and then you have a king above you who becomes very powerful and starts demanding things from you, you're not going to like that. Okay. Monarchs slowly gain economic, political, and military power. They maintain large, permanent standing armies and navies. Eventually, they become absolute or all-powerful in their rule, and that's kind of the next subject we're going to go past in the next videos. So some examples of monarchies beginning. First place is France. A gentleman named Hugh Capet became monarch in 987. Feudal nobles do not see him as a threat. Hugh and his heirs, the Capetians, slowly increased their royal power. The Capetians made the throne hereditary, which means it passed from father to son. They also gained land by playing one noble against the other, and they developed a system of tax collection. The growth of royal power was due in part to the 100 Years' War between France and England. It lasts from the mid-1300s to the mid-1400s, and it's really a big battle over who is going to be the next king of France. When it looked like France is going to lose this war to the English, Joan of Arc rallies the French to victory. Joan is eventually captured by the English and executed. She becomes a martyr and later a saint in the Catholic Church and the focus of nationalist feelings in France. France becomes a Catholic nation and is still really a Catholic nation today. Okay, England follows a slightly different path. When the Anglo-Saxon King Edward dies in 1066, his brother-in-law was chosen to rule. However, Duke William of Normandy claimed the English throne as well, and a battle for the throne begins. William invades England and won the throne. As king, William the Conqueror had firm control. He is also the last successful conqueror to invade England. William's successors strengthened English finance and law. Under Henry II, his great grandson, common law or law that was the same for all people was established. Henry broadens the system of royal justice by sending out traveling justices to enforce laws. Henry also developed the jury system, which we use in this country today. And when justices visit an area, a jury or a group of men sworn to speak the truth is gathered by local officials, and the jury determines which cases would be brought to trial. This is similar to the grand jury process that exists today. English rulers clashed with nobles and the church over royal power. In 1215, the nobility rebelled against King John, he of Robin Hood fame, and forced him to sign the Magna Carta, which John liked to call Magna Farta, a charter that placed limits on the king's power. The Magna Carta stated, for example, that the monarch must obey the law, and that the monarch could not raise taxes without first consulting the great councils of lords and clergy, which will eventually become known as Parliament. Okay, and we will spend some time with Magna Carta in a few days. During the 1200s, the council developed into a representative assembly known as the Parliament, and in order to finance their wars, the kings have to ask Parliament for authority to either raise money through the banks and what passed for banks in those days, or to raise taxes. The final break between the English monarchy and the Catholic Church occurs under Henry VIII, this gentleman here on your left. Henry was angered when the church refused to allow him a divorce. He wanted to divorce his first wife to marry Anne Boleyn so that he could hopefully get a male heir. Henry consulted Parliament and had a series of laws passed. Henry gains control of the English church. He creates the Anglican Church, or the Church of England. And in 1558, Henry's daughter Elizabeth I became queen and established England as a Protestant nation. Now this has twofold thing. First of all, you have the whole religious breaking off Church of England. But on the other side of this is a huge land grab, because Henry and Elizabeth seize land that belonged to the Catholic Church for the crown, and it allows them to, first of all, collect rents and taxes off that land from the people on it, but then later he can either sell it off or give it to other people who are his favorites or her favorites. Okay, so we're going to be discussing this in class. I want you to make sure you go over your notes, replay the video if you need to get more.